Here we go live. So welcome everyone to Meshery development meeting. Today is 19th of July, Wednesday. So I'll quickly share the meeting minutes again in chat. So make sure you mark your attendance, write down your name. And we have a decent list of agenda today. So if you got any agenda, feel free to add it in. So before we start the call, so if you got webcams, don't be shy. If you got messy hairs, so that's all. That's all right. So feel free to open your webcams. So with that, we'll be starting off with a quick introduction. So if you are new to the community, you haven't introduced yet on this call, this is your chance. You can unmute yourself and give a quick introduction. So do we have a newcomer today?
Yeah, hello. How's everyone doing?
Hey, Ahmad, welcome to the community. Yep, we all are doing great.
Thank you so much. I really don't have much to say except that I'm really happy to be here. This is actually my first time attending this meeting, and it's really a pleasure to do so.
Yeah, that's great. Well, welcome, Ahmed. Yeah, it's always it's always really difficult to be like the first person on the call.
Really hard.
Yeah, it's like hey, I mean, it's like super difficult. Like, I don't know, I was born, about 2 decades ago. I had breakfast this morning. I like, what are you supposed to talk about?
It's like really like I don't know what to say, but I'm a back-end software engineer, and I'm trying to get like in the Meshery development.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. Why are these guys picking on me? What's going? Yeah, no, that's great. Where are you calling in from? Where are you at right now?
Actually, I'm from Egypt.
Oh yeah. All right.
So yeah, like the timing is kind of perfect to me. Like it's 5 p.m. here already.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. Wait, what time is it about? You said it's about noon right now?
It's 5 p.m.
Oh, 5 p.m. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, nice. That is perfect. Yeah, just before you stop working, or like before you switch modes out of work into. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, could we? Oh man. Well, yeah.
But it's really good to be here.
We will harass you more, I'm sure.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ahmad. Nice to have you here. So next up, I see Luigi. So hi, Luigi. Welcome to the call. Would like to.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Speaking of harassing people, Luigi, where's your brother, man? Where's Mario? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible joke, isn't it? How many times have you gotten that one?
I'm ready used to it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Sure. Which means it's just not funny anymore, right?
It's okay.
Okay. All right. I couldn't help myself. No, good. Luigi, you already jumped on top of a performance-related enhancement, I think.
Oh yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, I was following the feature. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of folks that are on the call that that might end up collaborating with you, giving you feedback. Is Abdullah is on the call, so Abdullah Rafi, and I don't think Shin Huang, the XIN Shin. I don't think he's on the call because it's really late his time. But yeah, no, good of you to join. Good of you to jump on to I don't know, get your hands dirty already. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining, Luigi. So is there anyone else who's joining for the first time and would like to say hi? All right. So if I missed anyone, feel free to interrupt me or say hi in chat. So Pratham Purohit has say hi. So hi, Pratham. Would like to say hi, introduce. Okay, you are done in chat. So all right. So we started the call with lots of laughters. So that's great. So speaking about that, so make sure you start the Meshery repository and help us go vertical. So I'll quickly share the link of Meshery repository in chat. Do share it with your friends and like co-workers. So if you haven't published your first design to the Meshery catalog, make sure you go and publish your design. Here are the steps mentioned on the docs.meshery.io, so you can publish. I'll also share the link of these steps in chat. So starting with the meeting, we have two great announcements today. So first up is join us in welcoming our two new interns, Vivek and Aabid Sofi. They are joining us as a layer 5 interns, software engineer interns. So both of them should be available on the call. So do congratulate them. And layer 5 internship do starts and stop around the year. So you don't have to wait for a specific term or cohort to just apply for the internship. You can apply anytime. So and couple of past interns also have written blogs, so make sure you go and read and read their journey, how layer 5 has changed their lives. So next up in the announcement section, we have Pranav Singh, who will be speaking at KCD Chennai on 22nd of July. So his topic will be multiplayer Kubernetes GitOps with friends. So Pranav is also with us as a co-host. So he'll be also presenting some of the good topics today. So make sure you join Pranav at KCD Chennai. All right. So moving up next, on top of the list, we have Antoinette's item. So Antoinette, are you ready to take the stage?
Sure. So I have a link to the branch that I'm currently working on. There's some extra things that I was looking at that when it concerns on the measure control, but that would be separate on a different branch. I was just trying to get everything working together with measure control and also on the measure server. But for right now, in the beginning, the error that I came across was that the Docker wasn't being detected. But once I removed some of the errors and then just made some changes here and there so I can see what was actually going on. The issue that I came across is that for some reason it's not actually detecting the adapter at all, whether if it's the Docker within built and ran, or if you're running it locally. So no, I don't have an open PR just yet, but I have a bunch on Meshery itself. So anybody can see instead of just looking on my port button.
Okay. Any quick questions?
Yes.
For
I'm
Antoinette?
sorry. Yes.
All right. Looks like everyone understood, or she was too fast. So no one asked questions. So all right. So if you got any questions to Antoinette, make sure you drop it in chat, and Antoinette will be opening up a PR or an issue on this particular item. All right. Thanks, Antoinette, for the update. So next up, we have an item from Ananya on Meshmodel docs change. So Ananya, would like to share the screen?
Yeah. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yep, you are.
Okay, so let me just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah, Ananya, we can see.
Okay, so this is what the current mesh model docs look like. This is the concepts page, and I tried to keep it as concise as possible. And here's the contributing page. So if you would if there are some things that need to be added, you can look into it and tell me about it. I'll add them. And I was also thinking of adding some visual representation for relationships or for mesh model in general, because it will be much more easy for people to get an overview of this area that way. And yeah, so unfortunately, I'm not too good with the designing and stuff. I was thinking like maybe we could get a visual like Vaibhav did for this mesh map thing. That would work. So let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, or screenshots, unless there isn't a visual representation of a particular relationship yet. Otherwise, screenshots might do the trick. And
Right.
And people can help with that too, though. But are there any relationships that inevitably there will be relationships that you're describing that we don't yet, that we haven't implemented just yet? So some of those actually, when we do, you'll end up probably making.
Yeah, we could have. Right. So I was thinking like we could just get the basic model of what mesh model is to the Meshery architecture. That would be much more helpful for people just wanting to get an overview about it.
Oh, I see. Not the specific relationships, just the overall constructs.
Right.
There's at least one slide in the Meshery architecture deck that that I highly encourage you to download to SVG and publish here. I thought it was already in the docs, but maybe not. Certainly
in the presentation.
I thought it was, but even if it is, doesn't hurt to download it again and publish it on this page. It's a really good idea to have a visual.
Right. Yeah. So if there's any improvements for this page, you can let me know.
So this is the concepts page. Okay, good. Yeah, by the way, just for everyone else, especially if you're new to Meshmodel, the Meshmodel is it's just these core set of constructs that Meshery uses to model the infrastructure under management. Individual elements that it manages, different types of elements, different types of infrastructure are represented as components. Those components relate to one another, or they don't, but whether or not they do or they don't, and how to manage that particular piece of infrastructure, that particular piece of cloud native infrastructure, that's defined within this mesh model. There's thousands of components, and only a handful of relationships at the moment, but more are needed. So Ananya has recently published 2 pages. This page that he's showing right here is just a page about the concept of the fact that there is a model and what the different logical constructs of that model are, just the internal workings of Meshery. Some of this is quite clearly important for anyone who's contributing to the project to digest it and understand that model. I keep on using that word. Anyway, understand this part of the architecture, but it is also user-facing to the extent that what different types of infrastructure it is that Meshery manages is described using these constructs. So right now, Ananya has two pages up. This concept's good, not necessarily. It's good for us to reflect and understand how important it is for a user to read and understand. Probably not terrifically important, maybe half-ish. There's a different document that's about contributing to the model, like either enhancing the constructs that are inside of this architectural area, or adding new components, or defining new relationships. So there's a contributing page that describes that. So that's quite important if you're here as a contributor. Ananya, as you reflect on where to expose more of this documentation next, there's at least another third page. I'm sure that we will have many of these pages, but another third area that really is from the user's perspective. So there's the contributor page about how to contribute. There's just a conceptual page about what Meshmodel is. But then from the user's perspective, how does someone, as a user, like review all of the components and all of the relationships that are present inside of a Meshery deployment? Or how do they add a new one? Or maybe how do they turn off a model? Things like that, like from a user-facing perspective. That
I think the most they'll interact with the mesh model is through the mesh map itself. Yeah, so yeah.
Yep, they'll end up doing it through the Meshery designer as well. There's in the settings page in Meshery UI, there is a Meshmodel browser that could be documented. And then in mesheryctl, there's, we're on the cusp of bringing forth a new command or two to let people maybe import a new model or maybe list out all the models. And so, yeah, there's this sort of, if you think about it, there's a few different style pages or a few different style pieces of information that we need when we do documentation. We've not done a really good job in our docs of distinguishing that. There's like the contributor, the people that are writing that, creating this project, creating the capabilities. So you've got there's the people who might deploy and administer Meshery, just like, hey, I've deployed Meshery. There's a bunch of users here, but is Meshery healthy? How is it working? There's the sort of the admin guide, the user guide, kind of the install guide, if you contributing guide. And I missed one. There's the architectural or conceptual models. And so, wow, that's a mouthful. Anyway, you're getting them knocked out, but I figured I'd cover some of that so you would know where to turn to next, know what's next to go publish.
Right, yeah, we can implement that.
Good. Oh, this is great, by the way. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Ananya. The docs looks good. I'll share my screen again. So moving up next, we have an item from Aabid. So Aabid is with us. So Aabid would like to share.
Yeah, so I've been lately working with some charts. So I have some PRs, just a second.
Yeah, feel free to take over the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, so we thought about adding these connection charts to the Meshery dashboard, which show how many connections are in what state. So currently the API is not completed. So I think Abdullah just messaged earlier, like we'll start working on the APIs. Once they are done, we can connect the data with these charts and they can be merged. Another issue was like yesterday, the playground was a bit flickering with the charts. Like whenever we would hover over these charts, the playground was crashing. Like the UI was pretty unusable at the moment. So Weber and me started debugging late night, and it seems like it was a rendering issue outside of the charts. Like the dashboard was rendering a lot of times. Like, and actually we also saw like they were pretty much redundant queuing. Like same API was called 4 or 5 times. Might be like there was some issue with the API, or I think graphical connection that was causing the dashboard to render a lot of times. And as these charts do some raw manipulation beneath, might be that was causing the issue. So I did raise a PR today about like memorizing these charts. Like we are not doing much of any IO, or like once we get the data, these charts can be easily cached away. So memoizing is still a good idea, and I've raised a PR about that. I think that's it, but we need to still see why the dashboard is like rendering a lot, or what is the root issue. Because I think once when I raised the first PR about this chart, we also got an issue while hovering, but in development it's pretty hard to reproduce it. So that's it. So any idea, guys, or any feedback about these charts?
Is there is there anything wrong with memoizing them, or what's bad about that, or what do we have to? Why would we not do it?
No, I think memoizing the charts is a good idea, like because once we render the charts and the data can be easily cached away, so memoizing is a good idea. That's why I raised a PR for that. It should have been done at the first time, but it's a good idea still. But I think the issue comes from dashboard, like it's rendering a lot of times, which is causing the children also render. And as these do some DOM manipulation, I think when it's happening too fast, maybe there's some issue happening at the moment. So I think memoizing might fix it, and it's also a good idea anyway.
Yeah, does memoize and does memoizing oh gosh, there's a phrase here. It's like sort of sweeping it under the rug, meaning like we're not really dealing with the issue, we're just kind of covering it up, and there's
yeah, that's the thing I'm talking about. Like memoizing might fix the issue for now, but we have to deal with the root cause, what's causing the dashboard or what's really happening. That's why I still raise the PR, because like memoizing as a thing is good, but we need to check what is actually causing the issue.
Okay, so Abi, you were making some comments. You don't necessarily consider that memoizing would just let us accrue more technical debt necessarily, or do you?
It's fine to memorize because there are a low number of. I mean, the charts. The chart is driven by the data, and the data could be memoized. The problem creates when some subscriptions or some components are dealing with dynamic data are memoized. So right now it is somewhat static in nature. So
yeah, like these components, the chart itself is like a pure component. Like once it is rendered, we don't do much like on hover or anything, like we don't fetch any data at that time. So I think memoizing is not a bad idea here. For some components, it can be bad, but I don't think like here.
All right. I've shared Abid's PR in chat. So yeah, I think we can have more thoughts on this, on memoizing especially. So
Yeah.
Abid, you also have one more update. So did you cover that thing also, right?
Yeah, I covered that also.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Thanks, Abid.
guys.
So next up, we have an item from Avishkar on added single and bulk delete operation for apps.
Yep. So this is a task that we have in current sprint, which is adding actions to the catalog pages. So I had the part of doing it for the applications page. So I've raised a PR. I'll share the link in that. Or you could share the screen. Actually, I don't have the instance up. So, but I have attached a screen recording to the PR. So it shows the actions in the process in action. And I've tried to make it as close as possible. I mean, it is like similar to what we have in Meshmap. In Meshery UI. And so I haven't really copied over the styling that we have in the user management thing, because there's also bulk actions in user management, and we deal with it a bit differently than what it is implemented in the Meshery UI for applications. So given that we'll have more actions in future, we will need to change it based on that. Currently, it is similar to what we have in Meshery UI.
All right, I'll just quickly play the screen video.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to mention that the applications currently doesn't support bulk delete. The thing we are doing it is we just loop the requests for however many selections are there, and that is also the same thing that we have in Meshery UI. So I'm not sure if anyone is working on making it possible to bulk delete or other actions in bulk for the applications as well as the other catalog content.
Is it? That's an issue then.
Yeah. In Meshery UI also, we are just looping every selection and making a separate call for each selection. Because right now the API only supports deleting a single application.
All right. Make sure you raise an issue on this in Meshery channel.
Okay.
All right. Any quick comments for Avishkar before we move to next item?
Yeah. Avishkar, was part of your update with respect to the grid view versus table view switcher? Or am I just seeing that out of the corner of my eye?
And no, the switcher has been fixed by Sonali in a previous PR. Mine was regarding adding the actions to the data tables, and I had the part of adding it to the applications page. Also, that PR is currently in progress because we still need to create new keys for permissions for deleting the application, which I think Usman is going to push in that very PR itself. So,
is Usman on? No.
He mentioned on GitHub that he will be pushing the changes to that very PR. So I think we can merge it after that.
I wonder if we need training on how to go about creating new keys.
Yeah, so I asked him about it, and I'll be going through like what the process of creating a new key and the action, so that if we need to create new permissions going forward, I'll have an idea about how to do it.
Nice.
If possible, I'll try to document it to the best of my abilities, so it's helpful for someone else referring to it.
All right. Thanks, Avishkar. So moving up next, we have quick updates on Discuss Forum monthly highlights from Vivek.
Yes, I'll be sharing my screen. So hoping my screen is visible to all. So so welcome everyone to Meshery Development Meeting, and we are back with discussion for our monthly highlights and recognizing our discuss champion for this month. So discuss.layer5.io, which is our community forum where you all can ask your questions, help others, share your feedback and suggestions, and also you can share your experience, contributing to the Layer 5 community. So let's quickly know about the ways in which you can post on discussion forum. So first one is you can navigate to this URL, that is discuss.layer5.io, and then log in, and you can create a new topic or interact with the existing posts. You can also make use of the / command in any of the Slack channels to directly post your messages on discussion forum. And the command is /discuss post n, where n is the position of your message from the latest message in that channel. So let's say in any of the particular channel, my message is the latest one. So in order to post that message on discussion forum, I will type /discuss post and then 1 for n, so that it will load a transcribe and then will let me prepare a draft, which I can then post on discussion forum. In the same way, if your message is the second one from the latest message in the channel, you can type 2 instead of n. So I hope if you did not, then now you know about this convenient / command to directly post on discussion forum from the Slack channels. Now we will take a look at our discussion champions for this month. And so yeah, let's celebrate them. Yes, so they are Singh for likes received and Samyak Shah for posts created. So big congrats to both of them. Sagar has been busy asking questions, helping others, sharing resources, and Samyak facilitating newcomers, helping them setting up the projects. So keep up the good work, and I think both of you are on the call. So I'll ask you to post on discussion forum, sharing your experiences. So thanks a lot to both of you. Now, let me introduce you to the mascot 5. He's doing something and which seems to be, he's gearing up for a space mission, and he seems to be filling his rocket with a fuel, the stars themselves, right? So to ensure that, he has enough fuel and he doesn't run out of it mid-journey, I will request you all to like start the repo. Let's together help mascot 5 filling his rocket with abundance of stars so that he can propel to his journey. So I'll be sharing the link in the chat of the repository. Please start the projects. It will be a kind of appreciation to all the work that his community is putting. So yeah, that is it. Thank you, and we will meet next time with these updates.
All right. Thanks, Vivek, for the quick updates. And make sure you drop the links of the repository. So moving up next, we have an update from Uzair. So Uzair,
Yes.
would like to share?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So this is about the discrepancies that we have in the schema that is generated in response of dynamic registration and static generation. So if you see this left-hand side is the schema that is generated in response of dynamic registration, and this is the schema for alert manager that is generated statically. So the difference is like quite evident. Like the paths are different. Like the description, the spec is entirely missing from the static schema, and the issue and due to this discrepancy, the issue that results is you face deployment issues. So for example, if you take alert manager and drop a alert manager node, or in a design configurator, you select alert manager component and configure it, you will probably face with this issue and your component will not be deployed. So and after my changes, so if I can show you, after the schemas are updated with my changes, you will not face any difficulty deploying your applications. And this issue is like for all the components that we support, like for all the models and all the components that we support. And for some of the components, like for example istio components. So for istio components, you will not face this exact same error, but when you will deploy, and if you see the Meshery server logs, you will face like some this kind of warnings like unknown field config patches and this thing. So even if this component will be deployed, but this will be pretty unusable, because it will just have name labels and annotations, so it will not be a working entity. So this is the problem with the mismatch schema issue. And the reason for the reason for istio components not reporting like spec is required, because if you see the schema for istio components, so this is the schema for istio envoy filter. So you can see like there is spec, but there is no constraint added. Like there is no required attribute present. Like the schema should always be present. But when this component reaches Kubernetes, it doesn't understand. It doesn't understand attributes like config patches or what is this, because it expects to be under spec. So this is the reason for deployment issues that we face. And this will also solve the issue that recently Aditya pointed out. Like he was manually installing istio crd, but even after istio operator ships with Meshery server ships with istio operator static components, but even then he needs to wait for dynamic registration to complete to ensure the istio crypto MB file is deployed. So after this, like these changes are merged, he will not be like, you don't need to wait for any dynamic registration to complete if the Meshery server already ships with the component present in the design file. So any questions or?
Uzair, with that change, do each of the adapters need to be updated? Each of the components
Yes,
in the
like
adapter?
yes.
Okay, you might have just said that. So speaking of adapters, I think the update that we got from Antoinette today, unless I mischaracterize it, is that she hasn't been able to get to make progress on undeploy or deploy like lifecycle management because of the adapters are having a difficult time registering with Meshery server, I think is the thing.
Part of it is I believe it's how the adapters, they are gRPC, and so they're on. I'm not saying they're not on the same network, but they are not. So whenever you try to connect, it's not exactly detecting because it's not on the same protocol. So that's what I'm trying to figure out on when it comes to detecting them, if you can do like a switch to see, okay, if it's just a regular, HTTPS or without S or just with the TCP protocol, and just try to connect that way. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do after this call, just to see if I can get that working. Once I get that working, then we can move forward with the rest of it. So.
Yeah. Or in order to allow you to progress, I'd suggest like raising that issue up, letting someone else work on it while you get to the lifecycle management part. Thus far, because lifecycle management, like if you just like you do want it to connect, and that's a critical item. If they aren't, it's an urgent issue. But that can be handed off while you just work on whether or not Meshery server can deploy or undeploy adapters. If they can't connect back, like it's a massive concern. But I'm concerned that we're not working on the lifecycle management portion of it just yet. And I'm not sure if we can. I don't think that Meshery server can deploy its adapters to either Docker or Kubernetes. When I do it on Docker, the operation fails. And I think it's because of a Docker context and which context is being used based on what operating system is running, at least from what I've seen. On Kubernetes, like it should be relatively quick because Meshery server already deploys the Meshery operator through the Helm Go client to Kubernetes. And so in the same fashion, it would just deploy adapters using the same Helm Go client. And so, okay. So I guess we have those two open items. Which one do you think you're going to be focusing on, the connection back or on the deploy undeploy?
I mean, I have no problem doing both because it'll get me to figure out, okay, if it really doesn't work at all, then I can just move on to so it's no problem. At least, check it off the list and say not possible. And then we can move on to doing the if I can't get it connected, doing the life cycle. If I can't do that for whatever reason, then I would like to try to revisit having Meshery operator do it. So
yeah, that's a good, yeah. Yeah, right, because it would be like almost throwing away good money after bad, so to speak, by not shifting to a custom resource or by not shifting to like a custom controller for. Makes sense. Okay, good. So I interjected when Uzair was speaking because he was making changes to adapters. The adapters don't seem to be talking to Meshery server. Uzair, the changes that you're going to make are broad sweeping in nature, however, small in scope in terms of just shifting like where we're referencing a JSON file, right? Just shifting it a little bit. Is there the benefit of that? Refresh me if you would. there'd been one custom resource in particular for like the istio base operator that Meshery wasn't able to. Does this help fix an issue there?
Yes. Yes. So since we directly look into the properties and the istio operator has empty properties, so that's why the schema is empty and it was not registered. But now since we move a step ahead, a step above, so all the other entities or properties are also captured. So schema is not empty. So that istio operator will be registered, and so the issue wait for dynamic registration to complete, and so that the schema, so that the component is registered, then deploy the manifest. So that issue will be resolved. The specific issue Aditya was facing.
All right. Thanks, Uzair. So let's move to next item. That's from Yash and Harkirat on RJSF updates.
Sure. Let me share my screen. Okay. So update is regarding the publish when you publish your design. So if you are new, let me explain us in a small introduction of design what is. So when you create a deployment or any, let's say, MongoDB deployment for your Kubernetes cluster, you connect pods and service and confirm apps together and create a design. This is what we call design, and you can create it easily in the mesh map because it's you can easily create it. Canvas is there for you. So after creating it, you can also share it or also publish it so that you can share it with your friend. So this is what this publish modal do. But the problem over here is that this publish modal was not giving the correct user experience. So in this PR, I customized that, and this is how currently this publish modal looks. You can easily publish it from the Meshery or mesh map where you want. So yeah, so this is the issue that this particular PR fixes. There is one more issue we were having is currently by the overflow that we have in these cards. In this PR, I also fixes that. So after the release, these all fixes will be shown. So if you have any kind of review, you can say that. Or yeah, this is the main. Any question?
Aabid, or Harkirat, you guys want to speak to how this is going to be reused or not?
So this model will be reused.
Did you see the?
Model-
Sorry to cut you off. Actually, yes, did you see the PR that I had open around uploading the schema for application filters and designs?
Yeah, I see. I will update the PR publish model with this current model that I made in this PR.
Yeah. I'll have to just change the few minor things like adding the handler. So if you can just take the styling changes since you are already, put your time here, you will be fast at it.
Sure. Yeah, this is an update from us. And if you have any question, please to ask. Or
all right. Thanks, Yash. This looks good. We just need a release. All right. So moving up next, we have an item from Philip on connection unit test. So Philip would like to share.
Sure. I also my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
I'm also showing unit test for Meshery server. Let me get the link to it. Yeah, so last week I proposed working on this unit test because it's a central component for Meshery. So I'm working on the save connection function. Sorry. So what the save connection function does is that it takes in a request body, it converts it from JSON into a connection payload struct. So I had to create this connection payload struct here. Pranav had to make some adjustments to this by filling in some right data, because at first I added some data to it. So we have the Meshery subtype, everything. They're all put in there. So this connection payload.
Sorry to interrupt, Philip, but your voice just went pretty low.
My voice is low. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay. So this connection payload is already created now with these fields already, and they are used to create this test. So we need to convert it to JSON. And when it's converted to JSON, we create a post request, because the save connection function does a post request to make this connection work. So everything is done and the test worked fine. I ran the code curve. I ran the code curve report from it. The code curve reports, the CI seemed to pass. So now the CI is passed, and I still want to add more. I still want to test more functions for this particular package. So any questions?
Philip, 2 questions if I could. So this is, is the 5.23%, is that, what is that referring to? All of Meshery, maybe?
It's referring to Meshery.
Okay.
Yeah.
There, in this particular unit test that you're doing, it is not within Meshery CTL, or?
No, it's not. It's not within Meshery CTL. It's the server component. Let me comment. Let me try and get the.
Yep, makes sense. Okay, so yeah, we're at where that really is the percentage of code coverage then for Meshery server. So, well, we have a long ways to go. It'd be interesting to know what the current code coverage is for Meshery CTL. It was at one point it was at 50%, and then I think over time maybe it came down a little bit. But it'd be nice to, thanks for bringing up that number. It'd be nice to know what it is for Meshery CTL as well. 2 other questions on the unit test itself. You had identified a specific Meshery version. Does that make the test fragile?
The Meshery version.
Yeah, I think so. If you look at your code one more time, you have a token in there and a version identified. Meshery server v0 6.91, if memory serves. Anyway, it doesn't really matter the version, but the point is okay, and you're running this against the playground. Okay. And so, yep. Yeah, this probably falls into the land of integration tests, maybe, which is good. However, yeah, so a couple of things to consider is that, well, ideally, like the way that the unit tests become, or one of the ways that they're valuable is that when someone's writing a new feature, like they're augmenting the API, like Abdullah has been doing a lot of, is that when he would submit his PR, there would be a test like this that would kick off and like confirm that existing client code continues to work with the augmented behavior that he had done for that API. And that the way where like the server version at that moment in time would be like edge or like latest, like there wouldn't be a server version because it would be unreleased code. The server location would be like conceptually probably local host, because the unit test will be running at the time that the build is happening. And so it is, so you might have a cross between a unit test and an integration test on your hands, both of which are good. The integration tests, arguably, you get a bigger bang for your buck out of, meaning you flex more code and you flex more components, or you implicate them. And so, but we should probably try to land in one bucket or the other. To land this into the unit test bucket, we would, never mind. I think I'm misleading all of it. So like this test you're doing here on line 16 to 24, that metadata there is that's just sample. That's just sample code.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Yes, it's sample code. I actually switched that from earlier. It was just a dummy data. It was not representing any real stuff which we actually required. So I switched that with the actual stuff. The only thing is that this token is also not a real token. The thing is, this test is about saving a connection, which is just like doing a insert operation. So it doesn't matter what we put. It's just that to make it look good, I replace it with this real data. It's all about just saving this data in the database. So that's it. Though one thing to note is that I actually checked the our actions which ran on this PR, and I realized that the test is still failing. Like did you check that, Philip? Like I sent that on the comment as well on the PR. If you could check that, it shows that there's a net pointer error online. I think online 46. If you could check the latest comment on it.
I think Philip's screen is stuck, or
Philip is just doing a great job of being stoic. Now he's stuck. All right, good. Well, Suhail, you'll give a final review, and
all right.
Philip's doing the project a great service, by the way.
All right. Thanks, Philip, for the update. So, yeah, go ahead.
I'll interject just to note is that the unit tests, the integration tests are quite necessary. They are also an extra burden, especially depending upon how they're written. They can be written in a very fragile way, making them a massive pain in the behind, or making them a godsend before you click the release button and you find that something's broken. Or you try to go click release and the unit tests, the tests say that something's broken, but it's not. So they can be both your best friend and your worst enemy. And it depends on how they're written. If they're written in an anti-fragile way, if they're written in a helpful way, in a way in which is sustainable. And we're seeing the downfall of our end-to-end test tool, Cypress. Cypress is the tool that we've been using for that. And it is seeing its, well, extremely slow demise over the last couple of years that we've been using it. And it needs to be shot in the head, it needs to die. It is negative value and has been for a long time. And that leaves the project in a very precarious position to not have a broader set of end-to-end tests covered. This is a critical topic to address in the Meshery CI meeting, the Meshery build and release meeting. Is that meeting this week? Do we know? Or is it next?
It's next week.
Okay. All right. We're all relying on you. That's what I'm saying.
All right. So, Abdullah, you're up next.
So, everyone, I have a PR up to add additional options to the load generator when running performance tests through mesheryctl. Besides that, mesheryctl, when running performance tests through mesheryctl, the ability to add certificates for load test was lacking, as well as when adding a body to the load test, I've added the ability to do both of these things as well. And regarding the documentation for the new flag added, that will be auto-generated when this PR gets merged. As of now, currently, this is the help. This is what is output when we run the, I hope this is visible. Yeah, the new flag to add the load generator options is called, it should be somewhere over here. It's called options. And how one can add options for load generator is that I've given links to the different options that can be added for each of these load generators. And one can, for if you take the example of Nighthawk, so these are all the options that can be passed to the Nighthawk load generator. And for most of these options that can be passed to Nighthawk, we do not have a direct flag. So what if someone wishes to pass these options when working with Nighthawk, what they can do is they can come here and they can curate a JSON for the options that they wish to pass. For example, burst size isn't something that we directly support. So that what they can do is they can create a JSON file or a string and pass it to the load generator using this options flag that we have. And hence they will be able to use that option when working with Nighthawk. Does anyone have any questions or feedback? And
I have a question. Shin, who originally asked for this, was he was asking, he wasn't asking to be able to ignore self-signed certificate errors. He was asking for the ability to provide the private key. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, there is the ability to provide wasn't present with the perf apply command. I've added that ability now. This flag is what was added because currently on the server side we have the option to either run a profile with the certificate with the corresponding certificate, or we can choose to opt out of using that certificate. Because the present option was present on the server side, I've just added a flag in mesheryctl to toggle that behavior. And I would need help testing this command out with Nighthawk because I'm currently on macOS and I'm unable to run Nighthawk locally to test this out. Yeah, so I would.
Abdullah, you would just run Meshery in a container. So you could just, you could turn off the adapters if you want, but if you, yeah.
Another issue I would like to point out. Actually, Subedi had pointed this out a couple around 2 to 3 weeks ago. The issue is that when you run a performance test through mesheryctl, sometimes what can happen is if you're on the dashboard in the Meshery UI and you run a performance test through your mesheryctl, the performance test can get stuck in mesheryctl unless and until you open the profiles. So right now it's stuck. And if you open the profiles page in Meshery UI, this performance test gets out of, like, stops being stuck, and yes, you just observe that behavior. And this is a bug that this does not happen often. It's very inconsistent as to when this happened, but I've spent a few hours trying to diagnose this issue, but I was unable to do so because if you think about it, there isn't any direct correlation between this page opening as well as this test being executed. So if someone else would also look into this issue, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said we do have an open issue on this?
I'll open an issue for this.
Okay, good. Related to this, yeah, good. Thanks for pointing that out. That's a critical item. Related to this is, and I don't think you just said this, hopefully not, is that there is Well, a permissions issue with the calendar. Well, not with the calendar, but with the test results specifically. Maybe this is one and the same issue, but it manifests on the performance calendar. So for performance test results. Those are administrators can't see the performance test results either. I'll show you an example.
Okay.
All right. So Lee, are you sharing the example now, or okay?
I meant later. Just later.
Okay. So we are 3 minutes over, and we missed a couple of good updates. So we'll be covering all these items at priority in the next meeting. So is there an urgent item that we need to cover now?
Suhail, that dysfunctional subcommand, are those PRs merged, or is that still an open?
No, that PR is in merge now. So the issue was same with the filter command as it was with filter command. Like we weren't checking about the token expired or not. Like we were making utils.new request and we weren't checking whether the token is expired or not. That is present in the odd.json file. That's what we say. So that's the fix for this.
Okay, gotcha. You guys are going to be incorporating meshkit errors, hopefully. Or maybe that is one. But while you guys are learning about meshkit errors, Abdullah and Suhail, it would be great to include Philip in that. Because it's an area of open need, those error codes. Great, listen, thank you.
Sure, I'll start a Slack thread on it.
All right. So it's time to wrap the call. So before we wrap, so make sure you all subscribe the Layer 5 company calendar so you don't miss out any of the meetings. And if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to maintainers or meshmates on Slack or on Discuss forum. So with that, we'll be meeting next week, same time, same place. So thanks all for joining. It was a nice meeting. Bye all.
Thanks, Carl.
Bye.
Bye.